Happy Solstice. It's the longest day of the year, the one sunrise our ancestors cared so much about they built giant machines to catch it. This week, we found another. 2 huge timber posts near Stonehenge, aimed dead at this morning's light, raised 500 years before anybody touched the famous rocks. There was no metal, there was no wheel, there was no Google Calendar, and they nailed it within 1 degree. Meanwhile, George flew to Italy because a man with a radar scan says there's a second Sphinx hiding underneath the Giza plateau, and George is going to be there in the room when it's revealed. Johanna James took the desk for 25 minutes on a buried Egyptian labyrinth. There's a little moon tailing the earth that nobody can identify, and doctors just got told, on the record, to take near-death experiences seriously. It's been a huge week. I'm Becket, this is The Desk, and let's get into it. The longest day has been the longest day for a very long time, and humans have spent all of that extra sunlight doing some incredible things, some horrible things, and some genuinely stupid things. Let's start with the incredible. June 21st, 2001, a total solar eclipse sweeps across Africa and lands on exactly the solstice. The longest day of the year, the sun still finds a way to clock out early. June 21st, 2004. A man named Mike Melville straps into a privately built rocket and flies to the edge of space. The first astronaut with no government behind him. No Soviets, no NASA, just a guy, Paul Allen's fortune, and a very smart engineer named Burt Rutan. June 21st, 1948, a machine runs the first stored program in history. 17 instructions, and then we get the birth of software. Now going to the horrible. Around June 21st, 2017 BC, Hannibal hides an entire army in the fog along a lake, lets a Roman column stroll right into it, and kills about 15,000 men before lunch. They still teach it in war colleges. The longest day of the year, made very short for a lot of Romans. June 22nd, 1633, the church sits down Galileo and makes him swear out loud. He signs it, takes house arrest for the rest of his life, and keeps his head. Legend says he mutters, "and yet it moves," on the way out. He almost certainly didn't, but he should have. And now for the weird. Let's go back to June 21st, 1948. The same day we invented software. Across the ocean, Columbia drops the first LP record. That's one Tuesday and 2 of the things still running your life today. And June 21st, today, all at once is officially World Music Day, International Yoga Day, and Go Skateboarding Day. So right now, somewhere a man is doing sun salutations while a teenager kick flips past a guy playing the bongos. That's the solstice. We contain multitudes. And this year, the longest day handed us a brand new entry, and it's a big one. Archaeologists just found another solstice machine sitting right next to Stonehenge. I'll get to it. It's the headline of this episode, but first, the desk is a loaded week, so let's start with us. Here's what happened at Titan News this week. It was a loaded week, so we're going to talk about everyone we sat down with. Greg Little kicked off Cosmic Tusk Pod, Part 1, because Greg does not believe in the word briefly, making the case that there are 1 million ancient mounds buried across the Americas. And the only reason you've never heard of that number is that the people who first counted them were doing it from a boat. I sat down with Scott Wolter and Brian Cory Dobbs. Wolter on his Yeshua Scroll and the doomsday date 6/6/26 that quietly came and went. Dobbs on what he's calling the gimbal UFOs of Mars. 2 very different rabbit holes, 1 desk. Over on Matt's desk, Jaime Maussan and Trevor Grassi. Jaime Maussan did the one thing you almost never see in this world. He looked at one of his own famous spheres and called it fake. This was the second sphere, to clarify, not the first. Grassi brought a trove of Mexican artifacts. Hold that Maussan moment, it's coming back. George sat down with Dr. Chris Moore and Dr. Marc Defant to talk about the Younger Dryas. Defant, a geologist who once went on Rogan to push back on this whole theory, came back a whole lot less skeptical. Defant's description of what a cosmic airburst does to the ground, the breath of hell. And Matt talked to Sean Logan about Wilhelm Reich, the Freud circle doctor who died in a US prison, and the orgone energy machine Logan says can pull rain out of the sky. All of it's up now. Go watch the full conversations. There's 2 of them that I'd like to highlight. Johanna James guested a whole episode for us, and I enjoyed it greatly. 25 minutes solo, and she went straight at the Hawara Labyrinth. Herodotus toured it 2,400 years ago and said it beat the pyramids. 3,000 rooms, half of them underground. And then history basically lost it under the Egyptian mud. Imagine writing the greatest review in human history, better than the pyramids, and then nobody can find the restaurant. That's Hawara. And the modern scans get strange. She walks through the claims of tunnels going hundreds of meters down, chambers you could park a 747 in, and one 40-foot object that the scans reportedly can't even identify. It's a weird metallic structure. Yes, she says the word aliens. Go watch her make the case. Now, George is not going to be with us next week because he's flown out to Italy. He's flown out to see researcher Filippo Biondi present his findings that his radar scans have revealed a second Sphinx under the Giza plateau. Yes, one that nobody's ever seen that is buried. He's revealing the evidence at a conference this coming week, and George is going to be there, boots on the ground, to document what the results are and give them to us in real time. I'm not telling you that there are two Sphinxes, just to be clear. I'm telling you that our guy, Mr. George Howard, your guy, you know him very well, is going to see the cards that Filippo Biondi is revealing, and he's going to do it in real time. He's going to bring the evidence back to us so you can judge it yourself. That's the thing we at Titan News will fly across the world for. So stay close, this one's about to break. And another thing that we're happy to reveal on Titan News is when somebody who makes a claim is willing to back up and say, hey, this is not true. Jaime Maussan came on our news desk and said the second Buga sphere is not real. See what he had to say.
This is a sphere that was found in the middle of the jungle, close to a national park. The name is Las Orquídeas. And William Zúñiga went there to find it because somebody called him to tell him that they saw this sphere going down, and after the Buga sphere, many people in Colombia are willing to follow these spheres and to report them if they seem to descend. And that's what happened. After finding the second sphere, it created doubts in me.
This is a man who's been the face of this subject for 30 years, looking at his own evidence and saying, I might be wrong. That is the entire job, and that is exactly why we do this. With that said, he is talking about the second Buga sphere, not the first. The first one seems to be well researched and validated that it could be a real artifact. It's got some very, very interesting components to it that we haven't found in any other object that we've recovered in the past. That's what happened on the desk this week. Now let's jump to everything that happened outside of Titan News, starting with the one that I promised you. The new Solstice machine I promised you. 3 days before this, archaeologists announced a 5,000-year-old find near Stonehenge. 2 timber posts, 120 meters apart, radiocarbon dated to around 2,950 BC. That's 500 years before the conventional date that the famous stones were put up. And a skyscape archaeologist named Fabio Silva rebuilt the ancient horizon and found the post pointing dead at the summer solstice sunrise and the winter solstice sunset. And that's within 1 degree. This is not the announcement, by the way, not the peer-reviewed paper. That's still coming. So file it under almost certainly, not definitely. But the radiocarbon is the radiocarbon, and 1 degree is 1 degree. So 5,000 years ago, with no clock, no word for degree, people built a working calendar out of logs. My phone knows where I am to the inch, and last week, it told me to take a left and turn into a lake. It's been a wild week for the human family tree. So stick with me because the punchline of this is a genuinely strange one. For almost all of our history, we're not the only humans, and that sort of applies today. So, there were other kinds of different human species walking around at the same time as us. We're just the branch that ended up making it. One of those cousins is called the Denisovans, and it's a whole vanished species of human we basically only know from their DNA. And when our ancestors ran into them, they didn't just compete with them, they had kids with them. So this week, a study of people across New Guinea and the Pacific found something wild. They don't just carry a little leftover Denisovan DNA, they mixed with 3 different types of Denisovan groups, and that ancient DNA isn't just sitting there like a fossil, it's still running. It's tuning their immune systems right now to this day. So it's sort of like the Denisovans are still around. And yes, before the comments, Denisovan means archaic cousin, not your little grandpa, and 3 groups are read off the genome, not 3 skeletons in a drawer. But it is peer-reviewed in Science. And it's not just the Pacific. A recent study found the same kind of fingerprints in people in Japan, in a founding population nobody had even mapped before. The more places we look, the more these vanished cousins seem to turn up. And then, the timeline itself jumped. A cave in South Africa shows our ancestors were using fire on purpose almost 2 million years ago. That's long before our species was even supposed to exist. So the stuff we think of as human started way, way, way earlier than the textbook says it does. Put it together and it's kind of beautiful. We're not the human story. We're just the last chapter of a much older, much more crowded one, and we're still walking around with our extinct cousins inside of us, quietly doing our immune system's paperwork. Right now, there's a Chinese spacecraft, Tianwen-2, parked next to a little object called Kamoalewa. It's a quasi-moon that loops along with the Earth around the Sun, sort of like it's merging into our lane. For years, the leading guess was that it's a chunk that just got knocked off of our actual moon. But new analysis this season says the fingerprint looks more like an ordinary asteroid. Nobody's sure, but we've got a plan. Tianwen-2 is going to grab a physical piece of this object, and it's going to be as soon as next month, and then they're going to bring it home. We've got a thing that's been following us around the sun for millions of years, maybe, and we finally went, okay, who are you? And we've reached out and decided to grab it. Anyways, what does that mean? It means maybe there's a moon and we're going to go over and mug it for samples. This week, the film Disclosure Day came out. And if you don't know what that is, it's a UFO film directed by Steven Spielberg about a guy who has evidence of alien contact and a government cover-up and is going to try to take it public. That came out on June 12th, which happens to be the height of UFO disclosure from the US government. What crazy timing. And incredible timing for that film. I'm sure it's done very, very well, but it does seem to be a bit peculiar as far as timing goes. Maybe it is just coincidence. According to the internet, they started shooting this in February of 2025, so maybe their timing is just impeccable and they nailed it right on the spot. Or maybe it's coordinated. I'm not here to say it either way, but I'm curious to know what you think. Do you think that this is a coincidence that this film is coming out at the same time? Or do you think it is coordinated? Let us know in the comments if you think it is coincidence or coordinated, and also let us know if you've seen it and what you thought about the movie. Speaking of, are they out there? The scientists had a quieter version of that question this week, and it's one that actually fits the day. This was a big week for taking the mind seriously, from 3 directions at once. Number 1, Canada's flagship medical journal told doctors to stop treating near-death experiences like a glitch, and to start treating them as real events worth listening to. The establishment's own journal said this, just to be clear. Number 2, cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman and pharmacologist Andrew Gallimore put out a paper and held a live event in Venice this month, proposing actual experiments to test whether the entities people meet on DMT are real, or the brain is just doing improv. It's a preprint, which in science means they're pretty confident, but they haven't shown it to their mom yet. They're not claiming the entities are real. They built a way to find out if they are real, which is somehow the even crazier sentence. George Howard has had Andrew Gallimore on his podcast, The Cosmic Tusk, which is hosted on this channel, so go check it out if you haven't seen it. Number 3, a philosopher at UC Riverside, Eric Schwitzgebel, argued consciousness is substrate flexible, and that it doesn't need to be made of meat, which, if he's right, means it's probably not just an Earth thing. And it also implicates us in the non-human intelligence question. And look, none of these 3 things proved anything. It's a journal, a preprint, and a philosophy paper. But in 1 week, the exact questions this whole channel is about, what is a mind and is ours the only kind, moved a little bit further out of the weird uncle category and into the journals. And on the longest day of the year, that's a good place to land. Also, one of those papers wants to interview a DMT entity under controlled lab conditions, so science is freaking back, baby. Now, before I let you go, let me tell you what we're watching. The big one, George is in Italy, and he's embedded into the conference to be on the forefront of Beyondi's reveal of what is under Giza. Is it a second Sphinx? That drop is going to come this upcoming week. We're going to be getting information in real time, so we're going to be sharing as much of that as we can on this channel and on our other social medias, including Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. This isn't a hype fest. This isn't going to be a parade. We're just going to be looking at the scans. Stay close for that one. The Wolter team still owes us a peer-reviewed paper, and when it drops, we can tell you whether almost certainly got promoted to definitely. That's going to be big news when it does drop, so keep your eye out for it. Tianwan 2 grabs its piece of the quasi-moon next month, so whenever those samples land, we're going to be on top of it. And then Hoffman and Gallimore say there's a video coming from that Venice night, so when it's out, we'll walk you through what the actual experiment is going to be in plain English. But here's what I want from you today. It's the solstice. And all over the world, people built enormous things just to catch this one sunrise and to align their structures to it. So, if you could ask the people who raised those posts near Stonehenge, or who built Stonehenge, or who built the pyramids, or who built any of these ancient structures as to why they aligned it with the solstice, what would be the single question you would ask them? Put it in the comments. Also, if we missed a story this week that you wanted to hear about, drop it below. That is genuinely helpful for how we find part of these stories. So that's it. That's been the desk for the longest day of the year. I appreciate you for joining me. I hope you continue to pursue truth. I hope you continue to stay curious. And I hope you have a beautiful night and a beautiful life. My name is Becket. This has been Titan News. I'll see you next week.